meeting to order. We can do public comment. That would be you if you have anything.
Well, I'd like to tell you a little bit about what's happening for Garlic Fest. So,
Okay.
We've talked over the years about composting, and one of our goals has been to get Garlic Fest to have all compostable serviceware so that we can, when somebody brings in their plate full of
Right.
food leftovers and all, and silver, flatware and stuff, you don't have to pick through and pull out the silverware and get the napkins here. And so the Chamber of Commerce has agreed to take that leap this year. So we have a committee now of the Solid Waste Alliance that is working with the Chamber, and particularly with Kathy Solian, who is the waste captain
Right.
of Garlic Town this year. And it's coming on well. The biggest challenge is we're going to need to raise a bunch of money, because what we want to do is be able to subsidize the extra cost for vendors for this first year of making the shift. Now, maybe not the whole thing, but at least subsidize enough to help them feel like, you know, they want to do this. They want to say, the heck with this, we're not coming to Garlic Town if we have to pay more expenses.
Right.
So we're working on that, and I think it'll come along. So we're excited. I mean, this would be a big step forward. Last year, as you may remember, we got 80% of all the trash did not go into the incinerator.
Right.
And maybe you remember, maybe you don't know, that the trash in Bennington, the trash that goes to the trash hauler, all of that is hauled over to Hudson Falls, and incinerated along with the manufacturing waste from Glens Falls, along with the drug plant, chemicals, along with tires. They're all burned up and pumped into the air, and 30% of that stays as toxic ash.
Yeah.
And so we're trying, with all this in us, to keep that stuff out of the waste stream. So, looking good for this year. Thank you.
All right. Before we go any further, we are recording this meeting on CAT TV. So real quickly, if we could just go around and just let everybody know who you are.
I'm Marsh Hudson-Knapp. I'm an advisor to the committee.
I'm Bill Karras, I'm the Secretary of the Energy Committee.
Aaron Sullivan, I'm a member of the committee.
Chris Bates, Committee Chair.
Bill Christian, committee member.
Callie Fishburne from the Bennington County Regional Commission. I am a guest tonight.
Right. That's awesome. Okay. I guess I'm going to push the minutes to the end, and then we'll go with that. But I want to spend as much time as we can with Callie. She's been very nice to spend her evening with us. So I don't know, did everybody get their thing in the computer there?
The energy plan?
Yes.
Yeah, the energy plans. Did everybody get that? You got it? You got it, okay. I'm gonna let Callie start us with this, and then if we have questions, I talked a little bit with Callie before, and I was kind of explaining where I was at. So, but Callie, go ahead and take it from where you want to start, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so again, I don't have a formal presentation prepared or anything. I was really just thinking this would be a conversation with everybody here. And so Chris had told me a little bit about what he wanted to focus on, and I, just scanning what Marsh, the document that Marsh handed me, it looks like similar kind of interest in looking at the policies and actions, specifically the ones that ascribe responsibilities to the Energy Committee. But just to give a brief overview of the plan in general, because a lot of the meat of the content is the data information.
Right.
And so also just a note that I had put in the email when I sent this to Bruce. I don't know if he just forwarded my message in its entirety to everybody, but one of the things that we're working on for the entire Bennington Town Plan, which also applies to the energy plan, is it's going to be sort of in a different like graphic visual format than typical town plans have been for the town. So it's not really just gonna be the standard document, like with just lots and lots of text with occasional photos and graphs. I mean, it is still ultimately gonna end up as a digital document, but it's gonna be designed with more like kind of graphic interest, visual interest in mind. So the content is, you know, what's probably resembles what's going to end up in the final product, although of course there's opportunities for public input that will shape that somewhat. But the formatting of what you're looking at is gonna look completely different once we get to the end product of the whole plan.
Now, there were two documents that we got from Bruce, sort of like a PowerPoint type thing with all the graphics in it, and then this wordy one that's more about plans and thoughts. Right, yeah, so the sort of PowerPoint thing, which I actually did build it on PowerPoint and then I had to make it a PDF because the file size was so large and I couldn't have emailed it. But I was just sketching things out on PowerPoint so that it could more easily translate to the layout that we're going to be doing for the entire town plan. We have a coworker here at BCRC who, it's actually Scott from the Solid Waste Lines, who also has a background in graphic design. So he's going to be putting the plan into Adobe InDesign, so it's going to look, you know, more interesting, just have more emphasis on visuals and just like something that could be like more of a usable document for people who want to refer to specific parts of the plan and not have to like wade through this like 200-page text, little graph, text, you know, you know, with like more vibrant photos about, you know, within the community and stuff like that. So I've already started to try and integrate that a little bit into the energy plan, like you might have noticed in the data section or like the more content section that I have made an effort to try and put in some more photos of like people at an EV show or heat pumps at the town office, you know, that sort of thing. So that's just a note on format, and that may not be, it sounds like that's probably not what you're interested in talking about tonight, which is
not
good.
Tonight, right.
Because that's something I know, like we're actually meeting with the Bennington Planning Commission next week at their public meeting at 6 to talk about the format and get sort of, they'll get their first look at the format. And the section that we've got ready for them to take a look at is this energy plus resilience section, which the resilience part is more like flood hazard, flood resilience. So if anybody wants to go to that meeting, that's next week at 6 p.m. on Thursday. It's, you know, public meeting of the Planning Commission, so of course anybody can go to that.
Is that at the firehouse?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a quick question. Your format and how you're talking about structuring it and stuff, is it going to be structured in sections? So like John Q. Public can go there and go, I am only concerned about this part.
Yeah.
And then the contractors can go to their section, and then municipalities would do their section, correct? Is that kind of how it's going to be formatted?
I guess I don't know what you mean by contractors, but
A builder. I'm a builder.
oh, okay.
Yeah. And I want to know.
Yeah, I mean it's intentionally going to be structured. Like we have 4 main content sections, and each of them contains some like subsections.
Okay.
And it's going to be, you know, again in Adobe InDesign, which will it'll also be like clickable. So we should have it set up so that. You know, if you scroll to like a table of contents, you can click directly to section 2, housing, or you know,
Good. Okay,
you know,
good.
that sort of
Good.
thing.
Great.
Rather than like seeing the table of contents and then it's 255. Scroll.
Right.
We're trying to avoid that with this
Okay.
new format. I'm not the one doing the heavy formatting side of it, so I can't answer like super nitty-gritty questions about what's going to be in the formatting. But yes, our goal is to have it be like click within, or like things are hyperlinked in the document.
Yeah.
So if like we talk about Heat Squad, for example, in the plan, like you can go directly to their website or something from the plan and like sign up for an audit or something like that.
Wonderful.
As an example. So that's not quite ready yet, but we will be previewing that with the Planning Commission next week if any of you wanna come to that
What
meeting.
time was that again?
6 p.m. on Thursday next week at the firehouse, and it should be on the town website if not already.
Yeah.
So again, that's a planning commission meeting. My coworker and I are going to be there to get the initial feedback from the planning commission on the format. And I think we're primarily going to be talking about formatting at that meeting rather than content. And then once they're okay with the general format, we'll start putting more of it into that, and then they'll start really looking at content as well. So
It looks very impressive, Kelly. It really, I mean, and appealing, and like some real person could look at it and make some sense out of it and be drawn to learn and to interact with it. So 3 cheers for what you're doing.
oh, well, good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, I mean, we're just hoping to make it more user friendly and just have it be something people actually want to look at,
Right.
and not like, you know, who really wants to read.
Right.
You know, most people don't want to read just like a
Or you
300
want to
page
read,
document.
but
Yeah.
if you're a visual learner
Right,
and there are
right.
no pictures,
Yeah.
then you aren't speaking my language.
Right.
So
Yeah.
all these words are like they're for the people who
Yeah.
are up there with their heads in the clouds. So
Yeah. Yeah, so we want there to be a lot of visual language in this plan as well.
Very good.
So what I sent to Bruce, which I assume is what he disseminated to all of you,
Yeah.
was the 2 documents. There was the PDF, which is a PDF of a PowerPoint, which has got most of the data and just like information and content. And then the second was a Word document that was just all of the policies, action strategies. I know there's a lot of them, and I know we'll get into it. And then also the town's renewable energy siting policies were part of that as well. And I will say that, you know, the PowerPoint with all the data, that's pretty much all new content with new data, and also just like new analysis and description, whereas the Word document with all the policies, actions, and strategies is not significantly changed from the 2018 plan. So I did update some things throughout that were, you know, and maybe added or subtracted things or combined 2 actions into one or created more actions. But that a lot of that content is
similar.
similar to the current 2018 plan, whereas the other data is new data, largely new analysis and discussion. So that's just the context there, and I know it seemed like the policies, actions, strategies, specifically addressing the Energy Committee's responsibilities were a big topic of interest tonight. So I'll just stop with
That's
my
kinda-
intro and just let you all guide the conversation from here.
So that's kind of our, I think our issue is that we need to know the direction we're headed, right?
Yeah.
So I said this a few months ago at our meeting is that, you know, I didn't want to be involved. I want to stay in Bennington. I want to keep our energy committee here in Bennington that helps the town of Bennington. And it's not to say that we can't go outside of that, but for now I want to just stay in Bennington and figure out really what our goal is. And so when I was reading this, I was just like, we need some serious clarification on
Yeah.
it because it's so
Yeah,
many things that it's overwhelming, and if we
Right.
took it to heart,
yeah,
we would need a meeting every other day.
yeah. So a couple of things I'll say just off the bat that will hopefully assuage a little bit of your concerns is, number one, the Energy Committee is not responsible for all of the actions in here. Some of the actions do kind of vaguely say the town, and
Right.
some of them, depending on the action, you know, would be more appropriate for town staff than the Energy Committee. And also, I feel like a number of the actions you might read and you're doing them anyway, even if it doesn't feel like it. Like all of the outreach efforts that you're trying to make right now, like I saw on your agenda after this, you're going to be talking about tabling opportunities.
Right.
And with sharing information, like that actually hits a lot of these like action items here about like promoting, promote and publicize. Yeah, just like
right.
the information that's on the Energy Committee page of the website is also already checking off a lot of these action
Okay.
items. So, and I also want to say, like, I don't know what your responsibility to the select board is, if they're asking for regular reports of your progress or whatnot, so I'm not sure what your responsibility is there, but in terms of like at the state level, and this is something that we talk about with towns a lot, who are like, there are so many action items in here, not just in energy section, but in other sections, and they're like, what happens if we don't do it by, you know, whatever, and it's like, well,
Nothing.
nothing in terms of like the state is not going to come down and be like, how did you promote the Heat Squad
Right.
program?
Right.
I mean, the select board, you know, you're might want to know about your again, I'm not sure like what you have arranged with them in terms of like check backs, report backs with them, and what that looks like.
They're looking at, I think for us as quarterly, I think is what they're looking
Okay.
at.
Yeah. So
Does that ring true with somebody else? I don't remember.
I've made annual trips to
Oh, you
report
made
out
annual.
during
Okay.
my time as chair.
Okay. I could find out.
yeah.
Maybe I was delinquent.
Right. We could find out.
And yeah, I mean, a lot. I'm just refreshing myself on the actions, and a lot of them are like that we'll promote or we'll work with, and you know, oftentimes like if it's like work with NeighborWorks, it's like you tabled at Mayfest and you gave out NeighborWorks brochures or rack cards and
Right.
that sort of thing, and that's what a lot of the other energy committees around the county are doing too. You know, the other like really active ones are in Arlington and Manchester and Sunderland, and this is mostly what they do too. They have resources on their town website, and they go to events. Sometimes they host events. The Manchester Energy Committee hosts like an annual Earth Day, Energy Fair, hybrid thing. They often hold like an electric drive-in, an electric power tool event around Earth Day. So like, I don't want you all to feel like you all of a sudden are going to have to be responsible for
Weatherizing.
so many intense things, or that like you know, like I feel like what you all are focused on and working on are very much in line with what other municipal energy committees, and a lot of these recommendations are pretty standard across energy plans that I've worked on.
Okay.
And are meant a lot, and some of them are meant to address like the specific standards that we have to meet for energy plans. It's like, do you have a policy about conserving energy in buildings? And so, you know, it's a mix of addressing, making sure that the plan meets the state standards. But, you know, also, certainly I think it could be fair to say that there maybe are too many actions in here and that they could be trimmed down. Or if there are things in here that says the Energy Committee will do this, and you're like, I don't think this is an appropriate task for the Energy Committee.
Right.
I think that's reasonable to say, that's reasonable input to have. And I'm open to that certainly, and I'm assuming the Planning Commission would be as well. So I just want to lay that all out there.
No, it's good.
Don't want you to worry that you now all have to quit your jobs and become full-time.
I already did, sorry.
Right.
Those
I
of
did
you
too,
who are
that's
not
right.
retired, you don't have to.
Done.
It's just like okay, that clears up a lot. It's just who's going to make that determination on these actions? Then would it be us that gives you a list of things this is not realistic and this is realistic, or do you come up with it?
I mean, I've already sort of taken a stab at what I thought was real, but just by putting this in here. But like, I'm very happy to receive feedback on what you think is not realistic for you to accomplish, and take that into consideration. And also, like, depending on what action it might be, you know, it's either something that maybe we consider another entity of the town is responsible, or if it's not required by the standards and it doesn't seem like it, you know, would provide, it is meaningfully contributing something,
Right.
you know, then it could potentially be struck if it, you know, as long as it's not like critical to meeting the standards.
Okay.
So.
I can live with that answer.
Yep.
I absolutely can.
Was that a more general question that you had been asking in general with regard to the numbered items?
Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
Okay.
But like, for example, like number 9 on here is the Energy Committee shall promote use of the Energy Star building performance rating system that might have been something that some of you were like, well, how are we supposed to do that?
Right.
Like, you could arguably address that by putting information about it on the website. Like, here's the link to the Energy Star
I see.
thing on the,
Okay. So I think that's really what this is about then,
Yeah.
is the clarification of these. And that would be through you, right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Initially, would it not be also eventually with the planning commission and then
Yeah,
and also the select board, which is gonna eventually have to
Right.
adopt
yeah,
any of this? For instance, I mean, so if
Yeah.
we thought that there was something that was not within our purview or not within
Yeah.
Right.
possibility, or if it said, the ones that bother me the most are not the ones that say the energy committee must do
Right.
or should do this,
Yeah.
will promote, you
Yeah.
know, that side kinds of, or will work with NeighborWorks of Western Vermont.
yeah,
But rather, when we say the town,
right,
and then,
yeah,
and having sat on the select board, I always want to ask, well, when the town's gonna do this, my question is, who inside that town
Right.
Yeah.
is going to be handed that little number? And if we can identify, and
Yes.
this is what I would be writing to the planning commission, if we can identify ahead of time who is responsible for, let's try number 6. Well, that's, you know, the town will pursue, I think is actually up to the police department and the
Highway department.
and the highway department, yeah, and RJ.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's realistically, they're the people who who buy the vehicles or who
Yeah.
are proposing the purchase of vehicles.
yeah.
I don't know if there's any such thing as a fuel efficient fire vehicle. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
I have my doubts.
Yeah.
Maybe, no, I can't think of any.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of some. But, so you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think,
And I think that's an important reminder too, that like, I'm happy to take your feedback.
That's good.
And, you know, and share it with the planning commission,
Yeah.
who ultimately has, you know,
they have drafting
they have
authority.
drafting authority, and then of course the select board actually adopts the plan. So the
Right.
ultimate authority in adopting the document lies with the select board.
Right.
But,
Right.
So, but you know, I am happy to take your feedback and bring it to the planning commission.
What is our
and
timeline
incorporate it.
for that?
That's a good question.
Yeah, and we're still trying to figure that out right now. We just had a call with Dan Monks earlier today to talk that through. So we're starting with the meeting I mentioned
Yeah.
next week, where we're going to be going to the planning commission and giving them the first section in layout,
Okay.
in the layout, and that will be their first chance to look at the layout. And then depending on the outcome of that meeting or where they are with that, I think that will help us going forward set a schedule for presenting them with draft sections, because that's going to be our plan, is to give them a chunk at a time rather than here's the entire thing.
Yeah. So we have time.
Yeah, I would say you don't have a lot of time.
Are
like, I
we
wouldn't
chapter 8 still?
No. And I don't know, like, you're within section 4, and I don't
Okay.
know how it's, like, you're a subsection of section 4, which
Okay.
is like resilient community.
Right.
Is the theme of that section, and I don't know how it will break down from there. So you might be like 4.2 or something, I'm not sure.
That's okay. That's okay. That gives us
yeah.
a sense. I mean, I think
Yeah.
if we got feedback to you
Yeah,
within the next, you know, after this meeting and.
Is it like
before our
30
next
days? Do we
meeting.
have 30 days?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, because we're still gonna be presenting them with, you know, drafts and things at that point.
So we could put that on our next agenda
To provide.
for our next agenda, we'll have people go through that again and pick out what they think, and then we
Yeah.
could go through it.
Yeah.
And then we'll get you the list of
Yeah.
whether,
Or between now and your next meeting, you take a look at it, and
Yeah.
you all come to the next meeting
Right.
to agree on what you're.
Exactly.
Sorry, I don't mean to tell
No,
you what to
no,
do.
that's
but
exactly-
that's exactly
that would
right,
be
yeah.
helpful.
that's
Yeah,
what
that's
that's what I'm
helpful.
setting up here, so.
Yeah.
So we should put that on our agenda for next month.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking, when's the planning commission meeting again next week?
It's on this Thursday,
Yeah.
It's on Thursday night?
yeah, 6 PM.
Okay, I'm thinking I might go to that just to see how see how it works.
Right,
Just to perceive if that's, because it's an open meeting.
right.
And I'll be there with my coworker too, because that's when we're presenting the layout.
So I was
Right.
thinking about that same thing, I'd like to come and see it.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
if the two of us are there and anybody else who
Yeah.
wants to come can come, certainly. You might
Yeah.
be there,
I might
Bill?
be.
Yeah. I think that can we even do some just specific things tonight? Responses?
Yeah, I don't see why
I
we
have some
couldn't pick
general
a
things I'd
couple,
like
you
to
know?
raise too, so.
We can pick a couple things and,
So just so that before you got here, I handed out this sheet, which are my general and specific suggestions.
Right.
I'm just kinda chewing
So
on
that's
stuff
just
that
for
you guys
people
bring
to
up
chew
see
on.
that-
But in
Okay.
particular,
For me.
when I read
I
this,
mean, I'm still on the whole thing of, I was told the energy.
you can talk up a little bit.
Or I was told the energy committee was to present information, to gather stuff, to present information for people to make decisions with. So that's what I'm just kind of.
Okay, so that's kind of what we're trying to do, we're trying
Yeah.
to clear
Well,
this.
right. So I'm just taking in what you guys have,
Okay.
so I can, and then I'll,
Okay,
like some of the things I don't hit high on mine would be like number 7.
Number
LED
7.
lighting. I mean,
town will amend the land use regulation, that one?
yeah, I mean, it doesn't
correct,
hit high on
LED
mine,
lighting.
but
Yeah,
My guess is that's actually not gonna be us, that's actually
Yeah.
gonna be the.
That
planning-
That
would
would
be
be
the
the planning
town.
commission, yeah, and there's an argument to be made of how,
okay, good,
how important
thanks for
is
your
it?
input.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Yeah.
the town through since the planning commission does the land use regulations for the town,
Right,
it would be they, not us. I mean, we could encourage it, certainly.
like
And we could
what-
support
what I
it
would
or
see
not.
with that is that we would present them information of like comparing the difference between their traditional lighting to LED or cold
Right.
cathode or
No, that's
Absolutely, and I
absolutely
think
right.
that is something we could do. I think you're right, Aaron. I think the implementation of
Right.
that
Right.
would be something that we would do. We're not gonna deal with
regulatory change.
regulatory change, but we are gonna be providing, let's assume the planning commission actually goes ahead and says, yeah, we're gonna try to do something that encourages the use of, maybe not require, but encourages the use of LED lighting, then we come up with, or find resources that help
Right.
the builder slash homeowner
Right.
understand what are the implications of choosing LED over others. Certainly
Right.
over compact for us,
Yeah.
it's good God, let's not go there.
I don't even think those are sold.
I don't
No,
think you can
they're
get them
illegal.
anymore.
Yeah,
I don't even
you
think
can
you
just
can
sell
get them
them
anymore.
no, and I think now there's different LED stuff going on.
And I think that piece we'll want to be able to show.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll actually say, you could always go to Home Depot and you can see how the different LEDs work, because they'll
Right.
show you. But yeah, I think.
all right, that's very good, thank you.
So, Marsh, you were gonna mention.
Yeah, so I had some general things, and when this came out in 2018, climate advocates were very interested in what was going on. We all studied the version then, and when we went to the meetings about this, I was struck by a few things. One of them was that there were so many priorities. It was like we'd fired guns into the air, and what are we going to do with this? And the other concern that we had was like, and this is what you're talking about too, who is going to do these, and not here's the difference between my perspective, immediate perspective, and what you talked about. It isn't like who's to blame for this, but my thing is, let's pick the most important priorities that have the best impact.
Right.
So that we can actually get something done, not just, I mean,
Right.
we can fulfill a requirement by putting something in our website, nobody ever looks at it. Well, who gives a flying leap
Yeah.
over that? You know, but for example, you know, if we would do specific things that'll get us accomplished, that would be really great. And how much this document would go in that direction, that's something that I guess you all have to decide.
Yeah.
I would appreciate the select board prioritizing it. I mean, I don't think any of them are bad or wrong, but like, and I don't know if they should be ranked now or later or by the select board.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get us to go in that direction to
I mean-
figure out.
The other idea that kind of popped into my head is because it's a laundry list.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
mean, I would say, since we're information gathering and presenting, I would say it'd be more ideal if we did like, just off the cuff, like 3, 4 each category, give them the best information we can find. Once that satisfies and people are, you know, it stays a steady commitment of data, then we can look at expanding it up to another couple for each section versus just here's 10 for this section, here's 30 for this section, here, you know. I mean, that to me it just sounds like looking at the laundry list is more of a overwhelming that there's all these bullet points, whereas like we can really focus on dial in on a few, give them really good solid data. And
Right, yeah.
again, that's what we're trying.
Yeah.
We're
And I
trying
think-
to.
I know.
Yeah, but that's very good.
But I think we need to do that, not send it up to the select board,
And
because
quite
we're
frank-
really looking at energy issues.
Right.
And we've wrestled with trying to do a lot of these things, some of which seem to be doable, and others of which have, many of which have just, we've talked about, well, we can't do that, we can't do that. Well, let's draw on that information and pick the ones, hey, we think we can really do something with this, let's get that one done.
Yeah, I think, you know, right now, just the way I've have them organized and how we typically organize the action items or in plans are related to topic areas, just, you know, like that's how my brain works. That's
Yeah.
Right.
one of the logical ways you could organize them. But,
Sure.
you know, I think it could be, you know, in the interest of making it a more accessible and usable document, it could be like to start with that here are the top 10 actions that the energy committee has determined are the top priority,
Yeah.
and still include the you know
Yeah.
Yeah, include them.
you know the others, and you know, and
Right.
to make sure that you know the standards are met and that you know there's you know plans are meant to be comprehensive, not just energy,
Yes.
but the whole thing is you know meant to have a lot of information in there. But I think it could be helpful to have right at the top, like here are the top 10.
Yep.
Just a list that could pull from across multiple categories. Maybe some of them are around land use,
Yeah.
you know, planning, which wouldn't necessarily fall on the energy committee. Maybe some
Right.
of them are about education and outreach, which would be more in the wheelhouse of the energy committee. And then you've got the rest of them in their sections after that.
Yeah, that's
just
a good
having
idea.
that top 10 list. So that
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be top 10. I just
No,
Yeah,
just
could be
our
top
top,
12
the
or
ones
five.
you deem that are
Yeah.
Right.
workable.
Within our scope.
And,
Yeah.
and let me just remind everybody, in case you weren't around when we first put together an energy committee, or not first, but the second time we did an energy committee, the first task that they had for the first year was taking the previous town plan of 50-something, I think, items, I don't remember exactly, in the energy chapter, and to prioritize those. So the energy committee actually spent a year doing that work. And because I can honestly tell you that I do not think, despite what we might think, I do not think that the select board is going to tell us
right.
what those topics are. They're not going to do that work. They're going to come to us and they'll say, you know, you're the energy committee. We want you to do
Right,
that.
right, that's right.
And so I think we should be prepared to do that, even at the time when when the planning commission brings this forward for action on the part, there will be 2 hearings, 1 hearing, 2, I don't
The
remember.
select board has to have a minimum of 2 hearings.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
There have to be 2 hearings. It seems to me by that time, we need to have done our prioritizing
Right.
work.
Right.
And we can say, and by the way, here's what the Energy Committee considers to be the priorities within our
Yeah.
section, and maybe there's another section somewhere out there that does relate to us.
Yeah.
Like sidewalks.
Right.
And pedestrian work. I don't remember whether that's in here or in another one.
It might be referenced. I mean, there's definitely a lot about it in the transportation, but I think there's
Exactly.
some
I think
references
that
to it
in the
in here.
transportation one.
Yeah.
And you're right, Marsh. We did our own work on whatever mass trans
Yes,
You
on
know,
the bus or whatever.
on busing. And though I will say there are people who will disagree with our perception about it.
They just started using their electric buses, by
Oh,
the way.
good.
Yeah, I know. I
Because
saw
I live
that.
right next to the bus station, and so instead of hearing the like, now I'm hearing doo doo doo, like the electric
government
noise.
Yeah,
Right.
So when I first heard, I was like, what is
they're,
that? And then
they're
I
backing up.
Yeah, so
Because electric
cool.
vehicles need a tone in order
Yeah.
to back up because you can't.
right. It's cool though because
Pretty
it took them a while. I knew they have one on. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to get us
I
sidetracked.
will let you know that,
Yeah.
that in Britain, particularly in Wales, it's particularly different. When the garbage trucks, which are all electric, back up,
Yeah.
they go. There's a voice in a speaker that goes, "Vehicle reversing." So that's a very different, and it's really loud.
Yes.
So no, I think we could be aiming for that.
I
But
do
I do
too.
think communicating that to the planning commission
Yeah.
that it is our goal to work within this framework, but also to identify
Right.
what are the priority items for us, the 10 or
Right.
12,
Right.
whatever we think are the priority items for us to work on first and foremost that might give us the biggest bang for the buck.
Yeah, I think, yeah, and that would give the planning commission and the select board something to respond to.
Yeah.
If they even decide they want to respond to it, they might just be like, no, looks good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I think that could be helpful. That could also just make the document more clear.
Yeah.
So that a citizen who wants to know what the town is doing on energy is like, oh, here are the top 12
Yeah.
actions, and then they could go to a meeting and be like, all right, so what are you doing on these top 12? It just, it can help them participate
Yes.
more.
So when like in 2, 3, and 4, when we're talking municipal energy and land use planning,
Yeah.
I love the way, for most part, you actually identify to some degree in each one of these. I guess I'm going to ask that 2, 3, and 4 be written in such a way as we identify who the actor is,
Yes.
rather
Amen.
than writing in the passive voice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just, and it's the lawyer,
Yep.
law
No.
teacher, writer in me
And
that says passive voice is a way of writing so that nobody has to do anything.
Right.
and I know who did the bulk of the writing on the 2018 energy
Don't tell
plan.
us.
It's okay. I know.
I know why the passive voice is there because I know this person is fond of that.
I know. And I'm going to suggest that we, when it says the town shall will amend the land use regulations or will pursue
Yeah.
the purchase of more fuel efficient vehicles or the energy committee will.
Yeah.
I think that kind of language is really
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
And
yeah, you're seeing sort of a hybrid amalgamation of like things I pulled from the previous
I
versus
figured.
things. Yeah.
I
But
knew that.
I'm making a comment right now in the document for those. Identify the responsible party.
All right.
Absolutely. I think we'll see that and that I think all of us
Yeah.
will feel better about.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then where possible, where it says the town, I'll see if I can also
Say who within the town maybe?
Yeah, and
Dan Monks will.
Yeah. Or just the
police
position.
department.
No, I'm not. I
Yeah.
know. Sorry. Yes.
I did.
Hi Dan. I know you're going to watch this, and the answer is no. I'm not suggesting that,
Right.
but it will be that like say the staff person
Right.
for
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
shall or will. Will is probably better than shall.
So the term town staff
Yeah.
would probably be more prevalent in a lot of these actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we there were some here that I had interesting responses to. For instance, and maybe you can, I don't even know how you do this. So number 24, which I think is interesting. I'm a trained person, and I spent years getting my students over to the Rensselaer station to ride the train down to New York City to go to court in New York City. And it ain't easy. We luckily had our own buses, but how does a town, for instance, go about it? And who within the town would be going out about, I know it's not us, supporting the expansion of intercity bus travel?
See, this is unattainable, I think.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example of how can that be really realistic?
So, I think about George Larigo, who was a friend.
Yes, right.
Who worked on a committee, and I don't know what it was, that worked with the state about when the buses would be going and where they would go to. I don't know what that group is, but it would be good for us to identify. I could ask him.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because that would get us in the neighborhood of direct person or group rather than
And I agree
somebody.
that, yeah, the chamber, I think, is actually, let me just say, I think this is an admirable goal. I actually think this is something,
Yeah.
but it almost, when I was first on the select board, the very first questions I ever received were not what are you going to do as a member of the select board to change our governance thing or whatever. It was, what are you gonna put in the old Kmart? You know? And I looked at them
Marshalls.
and I yeah, well,
Mine?
you know.
Did you?
No, I did not. I looked at them and I said, what do you think that the select board does? We do not do that.
Right.
So help me out here because
Right.
I think it's a great idea. I
Right.
just want to be clearer about how this works.
So we deal with this tension a lot where people are towns of all sizes, and especially some of the like really small rural towns that have like 300 people. They're like, well, what are we gonna do about this? And
Really?
it's a fair question, even for bigger towns like Bennington that arguably have more capacity.
I think we do.
And yeah, and while the town can't like directly put something in the old Kmart, or it can't say we are declaring that there is a new bus route that's happening. I know, like the town can't just do that, but the town, by having, this plan, like this gets a little existential about why do we plan, but like
no, help me out because this is helpful to me.
having these things in here, having these goals and aspirations in the plan, because many of them are aspirational. And the plan is supposed to be an aspirational document. It
Yes.
shows what the community values.
Right.
And so it helps codify what is important to the town, what are the values, what do they want the town to look like in the future. And so even having these items that the town doesn't have direct control over has value because it shows what the town's values are. And the town can influence things to happen, and through various mechanisms. I feel like I'm not being really specific here, and I'm trying to be, but it's hard to like completely articulate. But I feel like yes, there are things in here that the town, various entities of the town aren't going to have direct control over, but I would still say that it's important to highlight the fact that this is a value of the town, and so it's out there. It's something that
And should the opportunity arise,
Right.
for example, I'm just thinking.
I'm still on 24.
I know,
we're
me
still
too.
we're still
Okay.
talking about 24.
Me too. I'm thinking, for instance,
Yeah.
should the opportunity arise where I'm in a meeting with folks from the chamber and folks from what's the inner city bus that we have now?
Green Mountain Community Network.
No,
Green Mountain Express.
the one that goes the one that travels.
Oh, Vermont Trans Lines.
Vermont Trans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Translines. Trans lines?
Yes.
That's what it says on the side of the
Yes,
bus, which
trans
I see
lines.
multiple times
Yeah,
a
you
day,
see it
so-
all the time.
I see it all the
Term
time.
trans
I know the
anymore.
schedule, I know exactly when it shows up at the
They have
station.
Well,
buses.
I don't think we're gonna be allowed to use that term, but nonetheless,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what it says on the side of the bus.
I'm sure it
That's
does.
just-
I mean, I'm just thinking, it would be, one of the things, let's say it goes in there, then one of the things I might be able to say is, have you ever thought about having, say, a Friday or a scheduled bus service between Bennington and the Rensselaer train station? Which I do not think there is at the moment.
There is right now.
Oh, is there now?
Yes, there is, twice a day,
Twice a day?
morning and night.
When did morning and night?
Yep.
So
That's the
is it,
Vermont Trans
go and
Lines
come
back.
bus, it goes to the
That's
Rensselaer.
through Yankee Trails.
it's through Yankee Trails?
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
And they start in Hoosick in the morning. Last time I knew, they start in Hoosick in the morning at 6. They don't come into Bennington till 11. Last time I knew, or at least when I used it.
so then,
Nah, it's more like 9.
Is it now?
now 9, and then
Anyway.
when do they get to Rensselaer?
Well, we don't need to do that tonight.
I understand that, I'm just thinking, but if nothing else, if I
Right.
understand you correctly, I'm just trying to figure out if I get
Right.
what you're saying.
Right,
Then this gives us some purchase
right,
to be able to say,
yeah.
is it a realistic
Yeah.
schedule
I mean,
that
in
gets
theory,
us?
if
Yeah.
you want timings, you could just take, I mean, when I took it, it was $2. And just
Yeah,
ride
it's-
it.
It's,
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so to get back to like
Yes.
how you could make number 24 like as an example like more concrete. Like
Yes.
this could look like for you all it could look like getting the schedule from like I think there's even like some pamphlets or handouts that they have
At the train, at
that show what the bus schedule is, and when you're doing your outreach, you know, at your various events, you've got it there, and you maybe have the map out, and you're like, did you know that this, or you have information about the
That's true.
Yankee Trails, Vermont Trans Lines. I swear that's what it says on the side.
Yes.
I'm sure it's
But
Yankee Trails is what I
having
see,
that
but
information and saying, did you know that this comes twice a day and that it's really cheap? And
God knows
you
that I
can
didn't know that. That's helpful.
So, you know, like that's a way to make it a little bit more concrete. And then,
Yeah.
again, it's like at maybe the more policy level, like the select board level, like, or, you know, town staff level, like having regular communication with Green Mountain Community Network about like, hey, have you thought about doing some new routes and, you know, stuff like that. So, you know, the town in some areas doesn't have direct control
Right.
over
No.
what happens, but they have the influence. And this conversation comes up a lot related to housing too, where a lot of towns are like, what can we can't, it's not like we can just
Build
send
houses.
like tomorrow crews from that work for Bennington are just going to start building houses. Like,
Right.
right. But the town can influence the development
Sure.
of housing through a variety of policies. So that's just an example
Yeah.
that has some relevance here. But I get the like, well, what can we do kind of attitude, and it's
But it's helpful.
So one of my other questions is, how many of these items that I didn't nitpick them or anything, but how many of these items require funding?
yeah.
That's another thing.
So here's the other thing I didn't mention, but all municipal plans now have to have an implementation matrix, which
Oh.
is a table,
Yeah.
basically.
Oh, that's
Matrix
helpful.
just sounds cooler, but typically we don't do it until the end when all of the sections are ready, because then the matrix is where we consolidate all of the action items into one table, and we identify the responsible party,
Okay.
Oh, good.
the relative
Great.
time. I know I should have brought this up sooner, but the relative.
You just wanted to get us all excited for
The
you.
relative, but
yeah.
it's still helpful to be
Yes,
thinking
it is.
about it
Right.
like, for yourselves too. Like,
Yes,
but
absolutely.
the relative time frame, and then generally we also include like what funding might
Sure.
be required.
Ah.
Make them,
And so-
in other words, making them real. I think, is it real?
Yeah,
Whatever.
sure.
Real goals.
Yeah.
What
So,
are the acronym?
It's basically a revamp of like, for a while now, all municipal plans have had to have just like a section on implementation, like how is this plan gonna be implemented? And until recently, you know, didn't require the table. You could just like write a paragraph about how you were gonna implement it, but now you actually have to have a table in there that lists all of the action items throughout the whole plan. And so that is, we are going to be doing that once we've got all of our drafts in a good place, because we don't want to start doing it before the actions are roughly finalized. So it's usually like one of the last pieces of content we put in before our plan is like ready to go through
That's
the
very
action
helpful,
proceeding.
though.
So yes, I should. I probably would have facilitated this conversation easier if I had brought
Probably
that
would have
up
went a different
earlier.
way.
No.
But
We're
So,
fine.
so the other thing that's in my mind is in relation to this, it seems like it's very appropriate for us to think about how might we, what of these goals first are most important to us and
Right,
likely
how
to
do
have
we
the best
prioritize?
impact,
Yeah.
but then also who would be doing what and what would be the steps that we'd want to do, who do we want to be working with, that all this is for us to discuss really, and not so much for the planning committee to figure out how we would implement these.
Oh, for this, particularly for this
For
chapter.
this section. And I'm really glad that you all insisted that we look at, or initiated that we all should be involved in this now, rather than us getting this thing that somebody out there never talking to us has tried to put together.
Yeah.
It's good for us to all wrestle this out now.
yeah.
I agree, yeah.
So,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I think it would be very helpful if you wanted to, all of you take a good,
We're gonna do
thorough
that.
look at it and come up with, I really like the idea of a list of priority actions that the
Yeah.
Energy Committee has identified that is sort of like front and center in this energy strategies section. And then, obviously other.
Because I'm always
too.
thinking about going forward, right? So if we have this, then for whoever comes in next,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
we'll actually have a plan.
Yeah.
That'd be really nice.
Right, that's,
Back, I think it was before you became a part of it. Bill was on the committee at the time. We had a little chart at one time that had some
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
But that was exactly what that was trying to do, is trying to put, okay, we have this goal, so who's gonna do it, in what time frame?
Yeah.
What are the resources needed to pull it off, and
Yeah.
how will we know when we've succeeded?
Yeah,
But
I
now we have
remember
that.
because back when I used to try and go to every energy committee meeting around the region every month. I
Oh my God.
I don't know what I was thinking, but
lot.
they're fun meetings. But I was like really impressed that you all were doing that, because I think
Yeah, no, I think it's,
a lot of times there's
Hi?
Nora's gonna take me home.
Okay, thanks.
there's
You're on film, Mark.
yeah,
a lot of times
Yes,
the
that's right.
energy committees are not, as connected to the plan. They were, maybe created by the select board and just kind of given broad charge to go educate. And so it's good to have a grounding in
Right.
the town plan.
and I will say, for whatever reason, the select board did ask for the first year that the energy committee do work with the town plan and all of its many priorities, and see if they could cut that down to about 10 or 12. I'm trying to think, are there other places where we need Kelly's help on this?
for me, I'm thinking it would be the first, I don't know, like the first 4 pages, maybe,
Of
of this thing.
that thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
of the,
The text.
until
Yeah.
we get into the general electricity conservation and efficiency measures? Is that what you're thinking? No, I got, no, biomass and liquid
Maybe
biofuels.
even just,
Who's making liquid biofuels?
like this,
From
I don't
seed
know.
oils.
Yes.
Come on.
Really?
Liquid biofuels,
your
I'm not making.
I would just say
That's a tough one.
to maybe
I
pick
said just
something
take
out
it
of
off because the
Yeah.
hype for that lost steam years ago.
Yeah, that's a holdover. And
Good.
the Manchester Energy Committee, I know we just went through a plan update with them, and they
Yeah.
were like, take biomass
Right.
out.
Yeah.
I
It
don't
out.
want you to
Well,
take
liquid-
biomass out.
Or they-
I want you
they-
to keep wood. I don't
Yeah.
want liquid
Oh,
biofuels.
they were like, take biomass.
Oh, no, I think we would be,
I disagree with that. I think there's a
So
place for
we
biomass.
softened
Yeah.
it significantly, but they were
Yeah.
just, they had, you know, they had their reasons.
can
But
do
that's,
what they
you know,
want.
different
Yeah,
energy
that's
committees
right.
have different
Right.
priorities.
sure, I
But-
want us to be talking biomass because
The
if
biofuels
for
one
no
is a
other
good
reason,
point.
that the entire SVSU practically
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
heated by biomass.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're not going, we will not make any friends in town. I mean, if I want us to advocate, which I do, for the tech center to be putting solar on top of its roof, which is structured for it, and which is sitting there getting solar gain every single freaking day, and they are running
Air conditioning.
air conditioners in order to maintain reasonableness of heat in the building, at any time after March.
Right.
I don't want us to cut our legs out from under us by saying, oh, but no biomass.
Yeah.
I want us to
Yeah.
say a both and.
Yeah.
Liquid, I don't
I
know
just
anything
I
about,
just
but
X'd out liquid biofuels. That's going
That's okay.
away.
I would
and
agree
I
to
think
that.
like
yeah.
I don't
Is that like what we did? Just so that I know what we're talking about. Is that like the guy who used to come by the fish fry and pick up their
Yes.
oil, their old oil, and use it and transfer it into
That's
fry
one.
oil,
Yes.
diesel?
But this is referring to oil seed crops here
like-
also.
Oh, that's true.
Supporting
I did see
farmers,
that.
so it'd
Yeah,
be
I
like
thought-
growing soy or other
Other kinds of
oily
seed crops.
seed,
Flax or
to
something.
juice and then turn
get
into a
juice
biodiesel.
yeah, all right. Yeah,
That's,
I don't see it
yeah.
happening.
That's a very, very expensive thing, and I
Yeah.
don't see it getting cheaper.
Yeah.
And I see a use for that for aviation fuel because
Yeah.
You're right, because it's got a
that's-
higher.
even if it costs 3 times as much, it's kind of the only option for flying across an ocean.
And it may still be cheaper
So it
than
could
what
still be
aviation
cheaper
fuel
than-
ends up being. True.
But for a house that just sits there, the cost of burning biofuel in your basement, I mean, you can. there's too
And for a
many
farmer
easier
to try
ways.
to do that cost effectively
Yeah,
in Vermont,
in
would be
Vermont?
crazy. Yeah,
We don't
It's
have
Yeah.
we don't
People
have
tried
the.
it.
I've never even
Dakota.
seen a soybean field or anything out here.
They use sunflower
Yeah,
Soybeans,
there are
but-
some between here and
which is
I will say
also wow.
Yeah.
between
Well, this
here
This is nitrogen,
and
I think,
Yeah.
which is good.
in that direction. I've seen soybean fields.
so biomass, yay.
Yeah.
Eh.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm for it.
Yeah, I
There's
think it has
plenty of
Yeah.
applications
It has
for
a
it.
place.
Yeah.
And there's a place for it,
I
and
mean,
there
you're talking
are,
about
and we have
wood
resources for
stove.
it.
Yeah.
That's Vermont.
Yeah, I think like some of the concerns I've heard around biomass that have also emerged through like at the Climate Council, Vermont Climate Council level, are just more concerned with things like the McNeely
Yeah.
Rygate like biomass plant, which has a lot of like
Oh,
air quality
air
concerns
quality
and stuff.
issues,
So I think
sure.
that's been it. Like biomass, like your wood stove, sure, but like giant. Like, I don't think it would necessarily be appropriate for Bennington to have like a Rygate or McNeely like industrial
No.
biomass plant. So I
No.
think that's kind of where the conversation.
Unless there was a
but we have
combined
a
power
commercial,
Yeah.
but we have commercial level biomass
Yeah.
in the schools. I mean, the high school is almost entirely biomass. There's almost no fuel oil being burnt there. The middle schools
It's
is
all
even better.
wood, right?
It's wood
It's
chip.
all wood.
It's all wood chip.
Right.
Yeah, and
In Bennington College.
Bennington College is wood chip. Absolutely.
The
So let's
hospital
not
should
cut those
have done that, but
things
didn't.
out.
You lost.
And the great thing about a hospital, because this has been done at a few other hospitals in the Northeast, is you can put in a cogen, a biofuel cogen system where you make electricity and you get a huge amount of basically free heat.
Huh.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
that would be a great thing in a town like Bennington. You could provide so much heat because they need.
Cogen,
Cogen doesn't have a lot of good applications, but a hospital is one. It's
Yeah.
just a really great thing to do.
That's what Middlebury College has
Yeah.
done. Middlebury College is basically it's got its generator plant, but it's also using the heat.
Yeah, it's
From it.
it's basically free heat when you make electricity.
Exactly,
I mean, that's where
and-
the Rygate thing is kind of a
Yeah.
disaster because they don't use the heat.
Mm-hmm.
It's still,
Yeah.
I'd rather do
What's the
that
point?
than coal, but it's not.
But not, yeah, that's a really bad trade.
Yeah.
You know, if we're gonna take that. Yeah, Syracuse University also has been doing that for years, and we've, you know, the law school is heated only by the electrical generator that's sitting next to Route 81.
Okay, well,
So, I know you have
Kelly?
other items on your agenda.
Thank you.
After this, so is there
Yes.
anything else before I depart?
I think
I know.
for me, it's
I'm
pretty
good.
good.
I'm good.
Okay.
If you read
Aaron,
my
you good?
paper, you'll know everything, I think.
Okay.
Kelly, thank you so much.
Yeah,
most of them already.
And we'll get you that
Well,
list.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
please
we'll get
do.
you that list.
We'll stay in
In terms
touch.
of the
Yeah,
particular
and you all know the deal
priorities
with
and how we
locking
address
up
them.
and
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
I'll
think
leave
we'll
the
have
heat
to
on for you all
maybe-
too.
I know how to turn it.
Yeah, okay.
You turn it down to 60, 55?
60's fine.
60 is fine, 55 is fine.
Okay.
And you
it's 50
55 also
outside.
very
Yeah.
grumpy coworkers coming
Okay.
in tomorrow who's like, it's Friday!
You babies.
Work in my house.
I know,
I keep my apartment at 65.
I hear you.
Wow,
And
good for you.
yeah, because I don't like to be hot.
right.
So.
Oh,
But I have some coworkers who get chilled.
My house goes,
easily.
Right.
my house goes down to 55 at 10:30.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you,
thanks
Kelly.
Thank you,
again.
Callie, thank you so much.
I wish I had
All right,
a
so-
thermostat.
We have to go back and do a couple things, and then I want to talk a little bit about our tabling opportunities and
Right.
stuff. So, first things first, I need a motion to approve the minutes.
So move.
Second.
Second, discussion? Nothing? Okay, all in favor?
Aye,
Staying. I wasn't here.
that's right.
Oh, I wasn't here for last week.
Okay, good.
You're getting this stuff, Chris.
What?
You're getting this parliamentary stuff down here. I saw that.
You saw
I
that?
abstained because I wasn't here. Wow.
I abstained.
That's,
Okay,
he knows that stuff.
other old business, so I sent, I don't know if I have it, the note from Jeannie
Matron.
Matron. So we're all good for the tabling at Mayfest. We got 3 tables that we all talked about
Right.
2 meetings ago
Yes.
for approval of being at Mayfest. So I think I need a motion for
To
that.
expend the money.
I need a motion to approve the tabling at Mayfest for our 3 tables.
Remind me it's us, it's window dressers. Or
Well,
And
we
it's
can, we have
Brock.
not.
and Brock?
And climate advocate.
I forget who,
climate
yeah,
advocates.
sorry, that's what I
No,
want to clarify.
We were gonna decide who we're gonna invite,
Well,
correct?
well, I thought we had made that decision, but that's okay. I'm thinking that window dressers
Yeah.
could use, if these are 8-foot tables, window dressers can easily use a half a table.
Right.
Brock, weatherization
Yeah.
could use a half a table.
Great.
Climate advocates
Yeah.
could use a table
You're half a table.
or half a table. We will use a table.
Yeah, we'll use a whole table. for
We'll use a
this.
whole table.
So that gets
And
us
so
about
that's 3, that's,
Yeah.
I think that between us.
Is that good?
That 4 groups.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would move that we authorize the chair to expend those funds out of our grant.
Okay,
Second.
second, discussion? Nothing? All those in favor? Okay,
Good,
passed.
good.
All right, that's good. All right,
Okay,
I'm,
There was one other that I had forgotten, and it was in the minutes though, I believe. It wasn't in the agenda that I wrote up, and that is on the 26th of April, I believe.
okay,
We are tabling, we won't need too many people, I mean, I plan to be there. I think it's the 20,
It's Saturday.
it's Saturday, is that the 26th?
Sounds right.
At the community market?
At the
Yeah.
community market, the
Right.
26th.
Okay.
The community market is having a
Birthday.
Earth case.
Earth Day celebration, and they've asked us to table at that
well,
celebration.
Okay.
And we'll just use our table
Yeah.
and our stuff, and we won't need, I think we're indoors, and
Yes.
if we're outdoors,
No.
I'll talk to Natasha,
Indoors.
but we're gonna be indoors, okay.
so I have to go back now to Mayfest.
So.
Right.
So they all need to have a tent.
Yes, and we have one.
We have, right, but the other tables?
We need
Oh,
two
yeah,
tents,
the
right?
two other, we'll
need two
need
more
3
tents.
tents. We'll need 3 tents total.
We're getting
only
3
have
slots?
We're getting 3 tables.
Yeah, but are we getting 3 spaces at?
Yeah, 3
Yes,
spaces.
we're getting
Okay.
3 spaces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
So
I've
I
got
have one, you have one,
Yeah.
and Mike, we'll need to talk to, we'll talk to Climate Advocates. There's bound to be somebody in Climate Advocates that has one.
okay,
My personal one got blown into smithereens, but the one at the church is there.
okay, I just wanted to make sure that.
We will have tents,
Okay,
and one tent will have our banner on
right,
it.
Great.
Okay, then there's, the, Pride Day in June, and then Harvest Fest. But I think Harvest Fest.
That's way in
probably
October.
Yeah,
And Pride Day isn't gonna cost us anything.
was it?
So I've been thinking about these tabling things and the ideas that have been presented and the days that have been presented.
Mm-hmm.
Those are great days for the town that draws in people from outside the town, and it's not really focusing on the town people. I would suggest reaching out to the local community people that reach the community, such as the food banks, such as the Christmas events where families that are in need are coming there that are in the town.
I
Present
agree.
the information, ask them if you can present stuff there. Because like I said, these are great events, it draws a lot of people, but it's
And
outside.
I will say when we were tabling at Harvest Fest, it's true, there were a number of people from other places, but we also had a number of conversations with people
Yeah, local folks.
of local folks.
Yeah.
So,
But you're right, I think there are
Not
other
an and or,
places.
it's
There
not
are
an
other
or, it's an
places.
and.
Yeah, there are other places.
so like the community
Right there on the
market
mix.
would be a great
Right,
one.
What
that-
percent,
you know,
what
yeah.
percent of people are local?
I think it depends what event you're talking about.
Right.
I bet Pride is probably more local than Garlic Fest. Although we're not.
Yeah, Garlic Fest
Garlic
is
Fest
not.
is- that's not-
We
out.
should never do that, that would be,
That's out.
Right.
that's way outside of,
Yeah.
that's
But no, I
many
think
people from inside.
the Pride Day thing is gonna be a lot of local people.
Because
Cause I went there last year and I knew so many people there.
Yeah.
So it's pretty
But-
local.
That is pretty local.
But I do agree that outreach at some of these local community
Yeah.
social service organizations would would
The
be
scene-
like a more direct line to
for
folks.
example, so like, when churches are doing the food bank stuff,
Yeah.
because if they're getting stuff from the Vermont Food Bank, they can't talk about religious aspects there.
No.
But that could be an opportunity to be like, also, hey, there's these other resources that,
Right.
hey, you know, if you.
The Sunday supper is one of those places where for example, one of the things we could do, and I hadn't thought of it until right now, Aaron, and thank you. We have 1,000 of those handout things.
Yeah.
We could pick a Sunday supper that we know is highly used, which is later in the month, right?
You know, the last Sunday's the big one.
The last Sunday's the big one. And we could put one of those flyers of resource information into every bag. Now, whether it'll get used or not, but we could even say, this is what we're doing.
Could put it in the bags. If we
And put it in
tabled
the
there,
bags and give
we
people-
tabled there with it, that would be.
And we
that
could
would
even
be
have a
right.
table set up there.
Yeah.
But that's still just pickup only, right? The people aren't sitting there and eating.
No, but they come.
No, but they come
and
ahead
wait.
of time for
They
an
have to
hour.
wait to get served, to get their
Oh, so
pickup,
there's-
so
yeah,
it's
so
the
you've got
perfect time to, and people
Yeah,
start
they could
coming
actually
around
sit there
4,
and,
so.
we could be out in the narthex area, the
That's
front
right.
lobby part.
Yep, talking with people.
And talking with people and having information there for them. You know, here's where you can get free, you know, and many of them are renters.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So-
many of them are homeless, so they won't be getting any
No,
savings.
some of them will be homeless, but many of them are renters.
Advice to a
And,
homeless
and
person.
some are actually local residents who don't have
A lot.
a lot. But that would be a kind of place. I could see that. I could see the senior center.
Well, you gotta look at it like with, not to get biblical, but biblical terms. You're casting the message far and wide. You're planting the seeds. If they
Right.
see it,
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
No, I agree with you. I think that's really helpful. And so we should be thinking about even I can work all the time with the Sunday supper folks.
Good.
We could do that when I know I'm going to be around, and we'll just set up a table out in the lobby and have all the information and make sure that we put a thing in everybody's bag. That has information.
Good idea.
I like that, and we should be thinking of other and keeping track of those. That's a one that costs nothing for us to do, and yet I would say talk to the senior center folks and do it during lunch at the senior center sometime.
Yeah.
We should get Brock there.
Yes,
Well, we
absolutely.
should absolutely do Brock there.
So
Like
there's
we
this-
can hand them a Brock flyer, but like we should get Brock there to.
We should get Brock there
To
for
sign
the
people
senior
up.
Absolutely.
lunch.
Right on
Yeah.
the spot.
So there's a guy named Dana who works for Brock, who tabled with window dressers, with me with window dressers, and his work is to help people figure out how they can get the money together to do things to winterize, and to connect them with people in Brock that
Yeah.
can get them the services.
His name is Dana.
Yep, and I can give you more later. And
Yeah.
I can also bring next meeting the list of what window dressers has focused for outreach, because it's the same kind of thought pattern. So let us think up our brainstorms and
Yeah.
put
Yeah,
theirs
that'd
together.
be good.
And I really would like to advocate for trying to get somebody from Brock every time we do it.
Yeah.
Because they have $14,000 worth of services to give to families, and we have only a handful of families that utilize that every year.
I know
It's
it.
just, it's criminal. Well, it's maybe not criminal, but
It's criminal.
maybe it's not criminal. That's
You're
what you
funny.
want.
That's not the term.
Yeah, no. Bad term. Take it back. I didn't say it, even though it's recorded. But having their people there who
Yeah.
can help people actually get through and signed
There's a
up.
lot of hand holding beyond
Yeah.
receiving a flyer.
Yeah.
Yes,
There are
absolutely.
many steps through that process.
And we really want to have, and
Somebody
building,
who can do that.
I think building the relationship makes that
Yes.
sense. And if we have somebody from Brock who's there
Yeah,
with us, I think that's helpful.
it is.
Yeah,
Yep.
very.
Dana, when we window dressers did a thing at one of the things for children. I don't know if it was Head Start. I think it was
Was
Head
it
Start.
Out at the rec center?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we tabled with Dana, and there were a couple of people who were looking at window inserts, and I said, well, you need to talk to Dana over. Dana, come here. And
Yeah.
so Dana set up appointments with
Right.
them and got working
Right.
with them, and that was really wonderful.
Absolutely. That's how that works.
So I think we could we could follow that same model.
Absolutely. I
Okay,
agree.
Switch.
Yeah.
it's good. I
And
think,
it's low
Yeah.
use of us because we don't, it's not that hard to do that. It's not like the whole day event tabling at Mayfest or something.
Right.
This is a low impact for us, but maybe a big impact for people.
Yeah, I think you're further along that process. If you
I
get
agree.
in there.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about Brock and window dressers, window dressers made an agreement with Brock that we would refer people who order window inserts to Brock, but we signed an agreement that allowed us to share information, because you may remember me mentioning earlier, I made referrals to Brock, and because of the HIPAA stuff, they couldn't
Right.
tell me anything about what had happened. So so we couldn't follow up on, did this really work out? So what Brock and window dressers did was make an agreement that they would share information. They got people to sign off on
Great,
that. So we had two families that actually got the services out of Brock from our window dresser.
For weatherization?
But we could by making this agreement, we could follow up on this and get people all the way to the services, rather than just getting them a number. They call
Right,
and they get the
right.
6-page form and they give up.
Right. Yeah.
Really?
Which
I'm not kidding.
I don't want us.
I know,
it's-
it takes a lot
Yeah.
of work.
It is a ton of work, but I don't want us to do that. And someday you're going to explain to me why HIPAA is even remotely related to that, has health
I
information.
won't explain that to you. I can give you the woman that Brock to talk to.
I think Brock is using, I'm not gonna say that.
Yeah, still don't say it.
I'm unconvinced that HIPAA is involved.
Okay, I got
Just
one
say
last thing on here, so before we run out of time, I wanna get this done. So, I don't know how it came up, but I was sitting around thinking one day, and I said, what if somebody wants to be here at the meeting but can't be at the meeting,
Right.
right? So I talked to Jonah, and he said, well, they have a Zoom type piece of equipment, but Callie, when I got here, Callie was talking to me about, see that thing sitting on the,
This is an owl.
exactly, and she said that we could use that in case anybody ever wants to be part of a meeting that can't get here, and we can use that. So I would bring my computer. She said, you just hook it up, go to Owl, set it all up, and you're good to go. So,
I think there's a way to do this without it becoming too intrusive, and
that's right.
I think, as I had said last month, I would work out a sheet of of procedures so that we can all work through. I like that if Callie is allowing us to use the
we can
owl,
use that.
That would be great. Either your computer or my computer,
Yeah,
doesn't really
doesn't
matter. And the town's Zoom account. And
Yep.
but let's think about how and when we want that participation to be. Is it at the beginning of the meeting? Is it throughout the entire meeting?
I don't think it should be the entire meeting,
Right.
but I think, like, for example, like today would have probably been a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe later on, when we have more information from the planning commission, and
Right.
as we get a little bit closer to completing
Yeah.
our town plan, that I think would
Sure.
be when we would want to use it.
Sure. Well, it is helpful to know that we have the use of
We do.
BCRC's OWL
We
and the
absolutely-
town's Zoom. I already knew that.
Yeah.
Here's what I will do for next month, and we can put it on the agenda, is talking about greater public participation through electronic means, and we'll come up with a set of, I'll just draft a set of
Yeah.
ground rules, and I'll try to get it out to the committee, and to all of you, well before the meeting, so you can be looking at it and
Yeah.
thinking about it, and feel free to make changes and whatever. Does that?
Yeah, I
would
think
be
I think
is that
that's a good
helpful
idea,
thing?
because, again, moving forward,
Right.
I want to make sure that we are accessible to everybody.
Right. Right.
So,
And not everybody's going to come out on a rainy night and
no, but they'll sit home and maybe listen to
Sure.
it or whatever they want
whatever.
to do.
Yep. And we can still have Cat TV every
Every
3 months?
quarter, yeah.
quarter,
Yeah,
every third meeting.
yeah, something like that.
Right. Okay.
Okay,
Good.
anybody got anything they want to
Any new business?
share with us? New business?
I got nothing.
Aaron? No? Good? Everybody?
So next month, we're all gonna bring the specific questions
That's
and
correct.
ideas that we have.
Right.
And I already did mine.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna go
Show
through.
off.
No,
Who's the
I'll go
teacher?
through mine. I figure I'll just email what
Sure.
I've done.
Yeah,
Good.
okay.
Good.
Good.
That'd
Thanks,
be great.
Aaron.
I was looking at it from a point of view of just a person in town. It's like, well,
That's the whole point.
This means nothing to me. I don't.
That's right.
Exactly. And I
That's
think
what
you,
we're trying to do.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly.
good.
I
Because,
think I cut my list down maybe 15, to be honest.
Okay,
and that's
good.
all right.
Yeah.
And that's all right.
And adjusting some of the wording, like
Yeah.
I understand that we're trying to promote the energy efficiency, but more like I would say present new energy efficiency options or technologies.
Yeah,
that
exactly,
have
to
the
people.
choice.
Perfect.
Yeah, I like that. And we're not going to be too late in the drafting.
No, that's why I
process.
said if we got 30 days, we can do it.
Oh, we're fine. We're good.
All right,
But that's gonna take up most of our.
I'd move we adjourn.
Yep.
second,
Second.
all those in
I
favor?
want to stay here.
Okay,
Aye.